Hey guys, my name's Aaron Stokes Baker, and I'm a person living in Chicago. And I wanted to make a video today. And so, what I wanted to talk about was obviously, will be in the title. I'm actually not sure if this will be online. I just want to kind of speak about my experience with mineral balancing, and which is you probably know something about it if you're looking the subject up. It is a kind of a newer, depending on who you ask, a newer health paradigm that is built around specific tenets, as far as I can tell, with my limited research. That these tenets are mostly oriented around matching mineral deficiencies, or basically dealing with mineral deficiencies, presumably to help nutritionalize the body. So anyway, I want to be just as direct as I can, as economic as I can, talk about my experiences, because a lot of what I felt in the last 5 years, having started 5 years ago, was I did not have a lot of guidance as far as other people who have experienced this. I was looking down. I'm going to look up the camera now. Hi, it's me. So I want to provide my experience, and just hopefully this can be of use to somebody in their consideration of this, if they're just going to look this up and try to see people's experiences. Like I said, I had very little to go on YouTube or elsewhere other than practitioners themselves, and that wasn't necessarily what I wanted, because all practitioners are they're doctors and they're essentially business people. So unfortunately, no branch of medicine, naturopathic or not, is going to be. They're all going to play in some part a role in their own self-interest, and they are not necessarily going to be honest about their perspectives, and they're not going to have necessarily, despite what they say, no one is exempt from making mistakes. No one is exempt from the difficulties that can be a part of any, being good, a good researcher, being a good, I wish I knew what to say here a little bit more as far as my experience. It's just, I think that, doctors are people too, obviously, and they can, have differing opinions. And this was something that I realized after a few years in mineral balancing, which is that this is not one thing as far as one perspective that you are following. This is like many other opinions in medicine. There are a ton of them. And there's a lot of micro differences that are just, for the layperson, unless you are a molecular biologist, most of this shit is not going to make sense to you. And you're going to be at the mercy of your doctor to explain it to you. My experience with this in general was something that was confusing and debilitating, and very angering. And I'm going to go into detail with that. But I personally went to see a specific clinic in Chicago here for 4 years, the better part of 4 years. And I had a number of experiences that I can detail, but the general context and what I would impart to you is this as a health paradigm and as a healing plan for myself with some chronic illnesses blew me the fuck away with how painful it was, and how excruciatingly painful it was on a physical level, and especially on an emotional level. And like I said, I went to a specific clinic for about 4 years. Nothing prepared me for the depression that set in, and ultimately, and unfortunately, the abuse that I received from my care team, emotional abuse, and the difficulties that I had after, like I said, this longer period of time, and a huge financial commitment, a huge life energy commitment. And this is not something that I was prepared for. This is one of the most difficult things, and what really, I honestly feel like I should have made this video sooner, because I have not had the money or the life energy to be able to pursue this path of healing in the past year. It dried me up completely. I spent every single reserve of energy that I had doing this. And like I said, my care team ended up being so abusive towards me that they decided to criticize me at the end of this experience, because I was developing signs of psychosis. I was having such a difficult experience emotionally with this process that I was worse off 110% than when I started. I had struggled to maintain any semblance of a normal life, because I was at the beck and call of being able to dump copper or dump lead or whatever the fuck they want you to think is going on. I'm not saying that that's not what's going on, but again, I want to impart the importance of my experience in case this is helpful for somebody else. So yeah, like I said, I have not prepared anything, so I might be rambling a little bit, but some details that I think would kind of help, qualify this. Um, Again, to reiterate, there is no set perspective on what this process really is. There is not a specific doctor or team that have developed this in an essential way. Although to be fair, that there was a specific doctor, as far as I'm aware, that developed this program, but that's not exactly what people think about it these days. It's developed. There have been other doctors that have come into this process, and they have their own opinions about what it means to dump copper, or what it means to even take a magnesium supplement. Everybody has a different perspective. You should know that going in. You're not betting on you're betting on a team. You're not betting on the essence of this program. My doctors had a very specific attitude, and what I then began to learn was a very fringe opinion. It could almost be said that they were the only people who thought about this process the way that they did. Their definitions of what it means to go through a healing process were completely different than other caregivers that I eventually contacted to see their perspective. So, for example, to give kind of background onto some context for the experiences that I had going through this, I came to I was recommended by a family member actually who had gone to see this care team. She was speaking, this family member spoke rave reviews about them, but not necessarily for the sake of their medical program, because this team there was a chiropractor on the team, there was a massage therapist on the team. So they spoke wonderful. They had wonderful reviews about those practices in the least. So I thought, okay, I'm into chiropractic care. I am a biker. I'm a courier in Chicago, and I do a lot of manual labor in that regard. So I'm always kind of in pain. I'm hunched over on a bike. So I'm also a musician. So I'm really taxing my body in some creative, weird ways. So I go to them and am pleasantly surprised to find it's an excellent chiropractic care, despite being fuck the ass expensive. Pardon me. I didn't even know what fuck the ass. That's stupid. It was like $250 an hour. It's unbelievable. So fucking expensive. I managed to have money at the time, and they were at least generous enough to figure out a way to bill my insurance effectively. So they were doing me a favor for at least the first couple of years that I went there, because it was I'm 28 now. I went there when I was about 24, and managed to have 2 years on my parents' health insurance before it dried up. So that care was awesome. I was happy with it. And I eventually decided, pretty quickly within a couple of months, to give their healthcare program a shot. Because like many people in this country, the US, I'm enormously skeptical of our medical system, especially from the perspective of mental health. Being somebody who has suffered from, I have been diagnosed bipolar type 2. That didn't necessarily stick. I have some other doctors who have said that wasn't accurate. At least major depressive disorder. And what then after time developed was an anxiety disorder. So I went in having not had a very good experience with pharmaceuticals. And being, again, very skeptical of what anybody else in the Western healthcare system would be arguing for. So to hear a naturopathic perspective, this is one of my first experiences with a naturopathic doctor. This was awesome, because they're telling me, this whole system is really fucked. It's like, you're not going to get a good experience taking antidepressants. It's not going to help everybody. In fact, it's such a shot in the dark, you might as well not try. There are better ways to do this. You can re-neutralize your body. You can get the proper nutrition, get the proper sleep, dump the metals that don't work, whatever toxins. For me, this was, I honestly can't even remember one of the names, but I had a couple of toxicities, like Candida was one that I remember. Again, this is a very common thing for people that are at least relatively speaking. A lot of people have heard of Candida, especially if you're in a naturopathic group. So for me, Candida, depending on who you ask, this is going to be something you can take care of by, you could take antibiotics, but that's not necessarily going to be something that works in the long run. I, having been on this program for 4 years, still didn't get rid of my Candida. I spent, again, over 40 grand, at least over 40 grand. I want to say it was closer to 60 over the course of those couple of years, 3 to 4 years. Still didn't solve that problem. That was what I found out, their perspective on the problem. They didn't tell me when I got into the program that this is a problem that can take many, many years to solve. They told me, okay, you can expect to get out of the program in a general sense after about 5 years. But the problem did not even change in an inherent capacity, if at all, besides getting worse over the course of those 4 years. I was not given a good measurement for what this meant. So candida was not the only problem I had. Like anybody who gets their hair tissue, if you're getting an HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis, this is every hair tissue mineral. You have to do it 4 times a year. It's $350 at least, sometimes more than that. I've seen some $600 packages. You're spending $500 a month at least on supplements. And then you're spending, depending on who you're seeing, another $400 to $500 a month just on the healthcare, like whatever kind of weird fringe. This could be an ionic foot bath. This could be a fucking infrared sauna. I know that some teams want you to be in a sauna every day. There's a $30 to $40 charge every fucking day, or you could spend $2,000 to get an infrared sauna installed in your house. Be it not even that the first year I was semi-functional in the program. The second year I wasn't able to work. My fatigue and my depression were so severe, I wasn't able to hold a job. It was by the grace of God that I had started a business that I was able to leave in the hands of other managers, and that they paid me an amount of money to stay alive despite not working for them in any capacity. It was ridiculous. I had nightmares. I had a continual rotating list of just, I cannot impart this, I think, effectively enough. The depression was so severe I was nearly catatonic on days. I could not leave the bed. This was something that they didn't prepare me for. As soon as I started to develop the symptom, they told me it'd be tough, but they didn't qualify that. Maybe it's my fault for not asking them more. But when I tried to communicate, like, this is not a functional problem. This is not a solution that has, by any stretch of the imagination, something that it seems a person can even accomplish. It's like being in heroin withdrawal. I've gone through opiate withdrawal before. It's like being in opiate withdrawal for years at a time. I'm not fucking with you. Especially something like dumping copper, if you feel like you know when it's happening. It's like you're ready to kill yourself. And like I said, I went through these experiences. Obviously, your mileage may vary with who it is that you think that you're dealing with. My practitioners made fun of me. They belittled me for not being strong enough to deal with the problem, that I would be one of those weaklings who would be kind of done away with. I realized over time, because of the qualities of this experience that speak to alternative health, obviously speak to, in some way, alternative spirituality, the energetics, the alchemical qualities of the work. These are obviously very rich and very interesting things that you can get into. Planetary metals, your ability to, like, understand the emotional quality and the emotional aspect of what a metal is. Copper, Venus, Friday, cuprum, these qualities and understandings. There's a very rich subtext to what you're dealing with. But that also means that you are prey to, like many fringe spirituality or many new age spirituality circles, people who are, by all stretch of the imagination, they can be very despicable and they can be very, very discompassionate, which is what I eventually discovered. And so I would give a word of warning again, which is that if you feel like you're dealing with people who are interested in ascension spirituality, that they're trying to communicate to you that you have karma to burn. Like, anybody can have a fucking idea of what karma somebody has or what karma you need to burn. That's what I found eventually was the attitude of my practitioners in particular, is that their attitude for the pain that you experience is you must obviously deserve it. It has nothing to do with their ability to give you care. So if you're having a problem, it's your own fucking fault. If you're ready to kill yourself, you need to grow up. It doesn't matter that you haven't slept any more than 3 hours a night for a week. You can't leave your bed. You are having wild bipolarity. You're taking a shit that's black liquid 6 times a day. You can't leave the house. You can't eat food. This is part of what I experienced. My parents would, like anybody in my family would attest to you, they thought that I was going to die for a long time. I told him I was going to stick with it because I wanted something to happen. I wanted to be able to suffer the slings and arrows of this outrageous fortune. I wanted to be able to get through this experience. Ultimately, about a year ago, I started to develop symptoms of psychosis. I began to, and obviously that there's part of the reason that this can happen also has to deal with spirituality in a sense, because what you think you're going through is the dark night of the soul. You can be having this experience and you are trying to find reasons for it, and you want to believe that it has this meaning to it. And so you're bringing all of this meaning that you find to this experience. You're trying to justify, this is something that I am burning off. I am really getting through this, and I'm helping mankind upgrade their consciousness. Truly, you can be the savior of man too. Just sign here and pay us this money. It's the same story in many different directions, and nobody is exempt from this. It has the same qualities over time. I found it's the same nagging, nascent, foul qualities of people who know better than you, and you better fucking listen, because if you don't, you're a little chicken shit, and God's gonna burn you away, and you're gonna have to spend multiple lifetimes sucking up to the teat. That's really the kind of emotional perspective that was revealed from my practitioners. Like I said, deeply discompassionate and masquerading as compassion. Truly masquerading is what people think love is. I wouldn't pretend to have answers for this, nor do I want to repeat myself unnecessarily, but if you're bearing with me, hopefully, maybe it's useful for you. That being said, I will say it's not all bad, like as much as it does sound terrible. Despite I was able to eventually maintain at least some semblance of a normal life. This about a year ago started to go downhill. Like I said, I started to develop signs of psychosis. I thought that I was seeing or feeling energies around me, and that it was a person following me, or kind of a spirit. I actually began to have probably the most peculiar experience I may ever have. I don't know. Was a process called, Deja Visite, which is, if you know what deja vu is, obviously. Deja Visite is an unbroken process of deja vu. It doesn't stop. You are having deja vu every moment of every day, and this lasted for a week, and I thought that I was losing my mind. And again, this was something that my practitioners met with nothing but cynicism. They treated it as though it was my fault. Obviously, I was doing something wrong, or I was betraying the process somehow, because I felt like I was losing my mind. And I don't know what I can say to it more than that. But the deja vu that I was. Oh, it's my dog, or our dog. It's my girlfriend's dog.
Crow, it's okay, boy.
Anyway, I want to kind of wrap this up, because I think, obviously 17 minutes is tremendous. And again, I hope that this is useful. I'm probably going to post this in some form just in case it's a good waypoint. I may try to revise this at some point, but, feel free to, I'm not really a constant user of YouTube in any posting sense, but I'm definitely interested to hear other people's experiences. Feel free to connect to me. I can, just message me here, comment, like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. I would love to communicate more about this, because I think it is a wonderful process. I do think that there's something valuable in it. Like I said, to kind of give just a little bit of context to something different, I decided to leave the care of my team after 4 years. I wasn't willing to put myself through emotional abuse for the sake of this process. No one has the right to do that to me. I don't give them that right. I care about myself too much. And appropriate boundaries are important. Self-love is very important in this case. I reached out to a different practitioner. She was in awe of my experience. She said that it was unbelievable, my experience, that no practitioner of mineral balancing would ever think that you would have to spend a year in bed. I had to spend the better part of 2 months for sure in bed every day. I could barely leave the house. I was nocturnal. I couldn't wake up during the day for whatever reason. She was in disbelief, and the amount of money that I had to spend, again, it was close to $2,000 a month. The amount of time that I had to spend in the office as well, in the clinic, getting the treatments done, it was ridiculous. She said that there's no way that I would ever need to do anything like that. You don't have to do coffee enemas, although, to be honest, a coffee enema it feels nice at times. So, but anyway, I'll keep this kind of capped under 20 minutes. Yeah, please comment if you find any of this useful, if you want to talk about it. Again, my main point that I want to impart is your mileage may vary. Please go at your own risk. This is very aggressive stuff. This is not easy. It doesn't really, it depends on who you talk to. It's really the opinion of the group. And so don't be confused that you're being sold the one true way to heaven, which is what I was being sold. I literally point blank my one of the chiropractic practitioners, after 4 years of going in here and thinking, oh, this guy's got a solid head on his shoulders. He came into the fucking office with a clipboard in his hands and goes, so how do you feel about flat Earth? Apparently he had been a flat earther this whole time. Not that I really know. I'm not saying I know one way or the other. Maybe that's a bad example. Who fucking knows? But I think it's a pretty well established principle of consensus reality that the world is a globe, and so maybe you'd wake up in a universe sometimes where it's flat. I don't know. You can ask some chaos magicians about that, like Peter Carroll. It's fun reading. Good luck. So yeah, please comment if you found this useful. Like I said, I'll probably post this and just to see what people think and to kind of get something out there sooner rather than later. But God bless. You deserve the best. Just act with respect towards yourself and others. Much love.